Hello, hello. My name is Ruqya Khan. I am a smile strategist. You are on my page, RK Writes. Thank you for being here. Uh, Today, episode 18 of Wise Wednesdays, and the whole concept of Wise Wednesdays came about with the intention of bringing together 20 years of media experience, lots of conversations on the page, and then contributing to the circle of genius by fishing into the people who already are on the page. So I have with me today Joy Abdullah, who is a marketing wizard with 30 years of experience behind him. And he's going to share with us a lot of details in terms of branding, in terms of upscaling your business, and why it's important to own your story. Over to you, Joy, and thank you so much for being on board.
Thank you so much, Ruqya. Salam alaikum. And it's a pleasure to be on Wise Wednesday. Been seeing it, hearing it, reading it, and I'm just absolutely delighted to be here today. I do hope some of the stories that I'll share would be of interest to your viewers.
Oh yes, I'm sure they will be. And the first story being that Joy is awake at 1 a.m. all the way from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you so much. And he's a early to bed person, and I am again very grateful for you to join in today. So thank you, Joy, once again.
My pleasure, my pleasure. For you, Ruqya, anything at any time. This is an honor to be here. So whether it's at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m., you know I would be there. Nothing
Yes,
short
thank
of
you.
being ill would keep me away. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it was fun because I we were in conversation one day and I said, so I would have asked you to come on board because you can bring so much value to the table, to the circle of genius. And but it's like really an ungodly hour. And you said, Bus, let me know the date. And that was
Exactly.
that was that.
That was that. That was that. Because it's a circle of genius, and my intention is getting into the circle of genius. Some amount of geniusness is going to rub off here, which I'm going to take back to my work and my life.
Awesome. Thank you. So when we decided own your story and then the connection between branding,
Mhm.
what comes to your mind?
What comes to my mind is people. And
Hmm.
if I just stretch that a little bit, you see what's happened in the last 6 months. And I'm stretching the 6 months because the world, wherever we are, we've all gone through about 90 days to 4 months in different stages under this global pandemic. And let's for a moment park aside the debate about work from home. Let's park aside the debate about stress and anxiety. There's one common denominator that has clearly emerged, which is people have come closer. And that I translate that more from when you say people have come closer. Hey, come on, we've got 7.6 billion people, and you go to countries like India, Pakistan, Southeast Asia, and you just can't avoid another person. It's right there in front of you. It's humanity and humaneness that has actually found its way into the daily fabric of our life. Now, if
Hmm.
that's a bit esoteric, what I mean is we've lived our lives. I've lived, by God's grace, 50 plus years on. You've lived your life a certain way, and then all of a sudden this pandemic puts us back into a place, and you suddenly realize, OMG, I mean, you mean I can't step out of my front door? You can't. Because now something you can't see, you can't hear, you can't taste, you can't even smell. So four of your senses are gone. And you've never lived without four senses except for a few special people. You've suddenly realized how valuable those moments of life are. And as we've gone through those 90 days or 120 days, we've realized, hey, it doesn't matter if Rukia's in Dubai and I'm in Kuala Lumpur, but it's just a short Zoom call away. It's a BOTIM call away, and boom, humanity, humaneness have come in. From there, one of the things that I'm noticing now in my line of work is that business has changed. And what I mean by
Hmm.
business has changed, and I posted when I was writing up and sharing about Wise Wednesday in the last couple of days, we've got to realize that the way we knew business even in January, right? Whether we are a business owner, we're an employee, we're, a senior professional, we're a individual professional in our own business, like you are as a coach. The way business was seen, done, and effected has undergone a radical shift or change. And that change is, you can't take people for a ride anymore. And I'm probably being a little harsh, but in marketing, it used to be, let's give out a message, let's talk about the benefit of the brand, let's put a price on it in which we can make a profit, go away, sell, 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 sell. And that profit is meant for our shareholders. The equity goes up, share price goes up, margins go up. People who have equity in that brand make a ton of money, but the rest, they just get paid. Boom. And another rest don't get anything. That particular aspect has changed, where people, customers, employees are actually saying, I'd like to know a little bit more about this company. I want to talk to somebody about this company. So jargon wise, it will be employee advocacy, employer branding. That's where I'm seeing the change now, where the person has gone into real focus, has gone into uh, the core of how business is done. So the change is, businesses have to start looking at the value to people. And when you start looking at value to people, it starts within. And just like we develop ourselves, you're a smile strategist, you unblock and then tell us to grow. Same way, businesses have to look at their employees, because without their employees, there's no business. And when the employees talk, the brand gets credibility. The customers get attracted to the employee and what it's saying. That adds the credibility or the authenticity, if I may use a jargon, and therefore the brand gets engagement and goes in. That's the whole picture in a nutshell.
Awesome. So, so just wondering, you're talking about employee, you're talking about engagement, you're talking about credibility here. So, how important is it for a brand or a person to identify themselves closely with what they're bringing to the table? So,
Yeah, great question. Great question, Ruqya. Let me break this down into two parts. First, from a business perspective, what's in it for the business if an employee and a brand are associated where marketing is concerned? And when I say marketing, I just don't mean the social media world. I mean overall marketing, where the manager of a company is interacting on a Zoom call or telephone call or face to face with the bank manager. Now, what's happening here? There are two individuals who are interacting, right? You know very well that the moment we come across with somebody, within the first 2 or 3 seconds, our brains have already thrown in certain assumptions coming from bias. So there are preconceived ideas about the individual already being formed. Now, if a individual behaves in a manner, in a way, in a structured way, what's going to happen at the end of that interaction is two things. One, oh, wow, I'm really taken aback by Ruqya. This is wow. Or, man, what's the number of that? I couldn't get a word that Ruqya said. That's it. That's literally it. Like and dislike. We create that gray area in between to say, maybe I like 40%, or that's your logic trying to rationalize. But your emotion is yes or no. That's number one. So when businesses look at getting employees to communicate, the step that has to be taken comes into the personal area, comes into the individual, which is where we have this whole area called personal brand, right? So Ruqya Khan is a personal brand. Ruqya is a mother, a wife, a professional woman. And then there's Ruqya Khan, the smile strategist, the coach. Are these two different? Is one orange and one an apple? Obviously not, because then you're going to be schizophrenic. You have to be one. The Ruqya Khan, mother, wife, coach, is one person who has many aspects to her. And these aspects basically come from our good old value system and our beliefs, what we bring in. And this is where the personal brand of what do I believe in? What's really important to me? Classically, we'll say, so what's my why? What's my purpose? all of these need to tune in to a business. And at this point in time, viewers could be asking this, that, hey, look, sometimes we don't get a job where, it's all
Yeah.
hunky dory and I love the environment. I'm there for the paycheck. You're right. You're there for the paycheck. That's a logical, I've been there. In 32 years, I've done that. I've worked somewhere for a paycheck. But that's a logical justification to an emotive feel. So what happens is, it's very important for the personal brand to be aware of what's valuable from a belief perspective and a dream perspective to self. And then you take that and you see what's in my work that aligns to it. You're not going to get a 100% alignment. What I try and do is I bring employees to at least an 80% alignment, because the 80% alignment brings around 100% engagement. At least the employee feels, I know why I'm doing this work and it has value, because if I don't do this bit, the next three guys are going to suffer. So, boom, that's how the personal brand connects to the employee. The employee is an individual, a person who then aligns with the business purpose, vision, and goes and uses his or her expertise or function as the voice, communicating his or her expertise as a personal brand. At the same time, it's rubbing off on the business and the brand to say, oh, okay, so Joy does this as the head of marketing. Great, I understand. He's marketing wizard. This makes sense. Let me take a look. That's as far as it goes. And that's where the classic part of the product and the service has to live up. You coach. Now, if your process and your methodology really didn't create likability and result, after some time, people are not going to talk to you, right? So
True.
that's the chain. That's the chain.
Okay. So a quick question. So has there ever been a time when you have had to kind of you've had that shock of your life where you went in thinking something and then you found out something else about yourself, maybe about your journey, maybe? Just tell us about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll go back to about 2.5 odd years back to, I had just finished my corporate role in January 2018, and I went to a pretty well-known bank for a role. It was a formal interview, and it was about an hour and 15 minutes. As I walked out, I suddenly I had this feeling of utter doom. In place of actually coming out like, wow, I've done it. I've hit the ball out of the park. It's been behind the bowler's back. My brain suddenly, well, before my brain, my heart felt like a whole block of lead, literally a block of lead inside me. I felt heavy. And I just came out. I stopped at the foyer and I sort of looked in and I said, what's the mistake I've made? What happened here? And I learned I went in expecting a marketing director's role. They
Okay.
flipped the script and asked me if I could do employee engagement. And the mistake I
Okay.
made was, I should have said, yes, I can. I've done it in my previous role, and stopped. I oversold myself. Typical old marketing style. I spoke so much because I am a verbose person. And my strength of trying to be clear in my communication actually came back as, Joy, you should have just shut the fish up. After saying, I've done it, you should have just. I went on for like 35 minutes into that whole area, laying it out as to what could be done, asking for a mandate to work with the C suite. So when I walked out, that assumption that I made, I was going in for a marketing director, I mentally had not prepared myself that I could be given a googly or a left field ball and I should be ready to, bat that. Second, I should have realized when to stop. It was a learning. It was a learning in my journey, because after that, I became very, very, very observant of myself in a conversation. You know, so yeah, you learn from your mistakes/failures.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Silence is the best answer. Sorry, I just saw your comment. Yeah.
yes. So, Joy, what happens on Wise Wednesdays is we often in conversation about things of the heart, things that people really, really resonate with. So this topic being a little different. So when we're
Yeah.
looking at branding, when we're looking at a story and all of that, it's slightly different. So let's hope it kind of warms up, which it should. And even if it doesn't, let's just have a great conversation and chitter chat about many things. So when it comes to looking at presenting your story, there is that level of vulnerability that a person needs to go through, right? Because um, are you ready to tell the complete truth, or are you going to package the truth in a nice shiny bow so that nobody notices what's really underneath? What's all of that about?
Okay. Uh, Nothing supersedes truth. And the first
Hmm.
thing that, I mean, I'm sharing this from my experience, and Ruqya, you're aware of part of it over the last, I would say, 3 odd years, 2.5 years. Lie to ourselves. No amount of glitter and shiny boat is going to be able to keep it away from the world at large. Because the first assumption, you're making an ass out of you and me by assuming that the person opposite you is less intelligent. So the first
Hmm.
point that you should take is everybody you're interacting with is either on par or slightly above you on intelligence. It always helps. That's number one. Number two, accept your truth first, you yourself individually. And this is the personal brand work that I do, even with employed peoples and business owner, is this: if you keep running away, that's all you're doing. You're literally running, and you will arrive at a time, whether it's joy or x or y or z, and whether it's at 30, 40, 50 or 60, you will arrive at a point in time where the mirror will look back at you,
Hmm.
and you're going to do one of two things. Either you're going to give yourself excuses or you're going to have regrets. So
Right.
the faster you accept the truth, and the truth is always, always bitter. I'll share a truth from myself. I've spent 32 years in corporate. The learning that I've had in the last 2.5 to 3 years beats everything that I've learned in the 32 years.
Hmm.
Absolutely beats everything I've learned in 3 decades, hands down, and it's in less than 3 years. Now,
Right.
adversity made me resourceful. In 32 years, I didn't have adversity. Why? Because I was in a comfort. So when I faced that adversity, I had two choices. Either I could be a victim or be a victor, right?
Hmm.
I chose that I want to be a victor. I want to come out because I'm a fighter. So if I'm a
Yep.
fighter and I, have responsibilities, the truth is I got to do X in order to get Y. Okay, let's go ahead and do X. Sometimes X doesn't pan out your way. So when you accept that truth, you find a courage. Everybody, I believe this from everything that I have done with people over the last 2.5 years. Everybody has courage. They just need to have a guide to tell them when to dig in to find that courage. It's been given to us when we were born, it's within us. When you find that courage, you accept your truth. What happens is your truth liberates you or sets you free, to use a cliche. The truth shall set you free. Okay.
Yep.
It it becomes your story. And because it's you, it's the
Hmm.
real you, it's the truth, it's the authentic self. You share it like I'm sharing with you right now. There's, maybe I'll drop an a, an, or the somewhere here between talking to you tonight and talking tomorrow morning somewhere, but it's that's your story. You share it. Now
Yep.
what happens with the story is to impact 1 million people or even 100 people.
Hmm.
Just look to impact your 5 or 6 or 7 family members to start with. Your
Hmm.
first thing that happens is your inner circle, which is your core, your family and your friends, they start looking at you and suddenly saying, hey, you've changed. Wow, yeah, I've changed. Can you tell me what the change is? Hey, you look a little stronger. Not that you bulked up or you muscled up or anything. It's just that you've gone stronger here. You owning the truth, your voice. So what happens when you own your voice? When I work with employees, they move from suddenly being a designation, senior manager, vice president, etc., even CEOs, business owners. They suddenly realize, hey, my name is Akash so and so or John X. All right. I asked them a question. I said, "Do you know why you were baptized, or why were you given a name when you were born?" It's to give you a specific identity. Now, you hear
Yep.
me calling you Ruqya. Try this exercise sometimes. Just get into a simple room, put off all the lights, have a candle, or just sit in the dark. Call your own name. Call your own name 10 times. 10 times. And see the
Okay.
emotions you feel. What will happen is, when the first time I
Hmm.
did it, I've heard everybody call me Joy since I was, I don't know, 2, 3 years old. That's my nick. That's my
Right.
part of my birth name and everything. When I just sat down and I did it, I had goosebumps. Literally, I was in the room that I'm talking to you right now. There was not a single light. Everything was off. And yeah, probably the mistake I made is I was looking into the mirror as I was just simply looking like this. I'm looking into camera. Joy, joy, joy. And my voice actually went from a normal pitch till it faded out, because as I was looking and I was talking, I suddenly had this very, I don't know, out of body kind of a sort of a sensation, like, is that my voice? And I hear my
Hmm.
voice all the time recording and doing my videos and everything. But the point I'm making here is,
How often do you call out your own name? Sorry to interrupt you there. That was very
exactly.
fascinating.
Okay. The reason I shared that exercise is, identity is is so unique. You don't call out your own name. Everybody
Yep.
else calls it out. But you need to value that name of yours, because it
Hmm.
has a legacy, it has a lineage, and it's everything that you've got. It can be built over 90 years and destroyed in 9 seconds, right?
True that.
Similarly,
True
your
that.
brand. So, Joy Abdullah, mission in life, impact people, give a bit of joy. It comes from my name, right? Somebody else,
Yep.
Ruqya is a smile strategist. Ruqya cannot impact somebody and tell person, Ruk gaya, stopped forever. No, that's not the meaning of your name. So
True.
I bring it to
But
people in personal brand to say, value your name. And in the same way, when you have your own truth, you've accepted it, that's your story, own it. That's your designation. That's what defines you. And that's when we come up with what in marketing we call a strap line or a tagline.
hmm. So one of my own quotes is, "Your name is your first responsibility."
Yep, yep, yep,
It is, isn't
yep.
it? Because it's like something that's given to you, and then it's a responsibility that you have to stand up to every time. I love what you said about, you build it over 90 years and then it's gone in 9 seconds. It can beat the dust. My name, by the way, means healing with words.
Yeah, I know. I just use it in broken Hindi as
Yeah,
in Ruk Gaya, because,
yeah, I know
Ruqya.
that. But what I'm saying is, Rukia, isn't it fascinating that a person whose name is Rukaya is actually translates into healing with words, and that's what I'm literally doing as a life coach, as a speaker, as a trainer. So interesting. And then
In,
you are Joy.
yeah, it's, see, if somebody had told me this, I'd be very honest. So if somebody had told me this 10 years ago, 2010, right? I would have really brushed it off, because at 2010, I
Hmm.
was building myself as a thought leader in a particular industry. And I spent
Hmm.
7 years building myself up in that industry, only to realize that I've wasted 7 years and I didn't get zilch. So again, I
Hmm.
had a choice. You see, the issue of choice becomes very important. I had a choice. I could sit back and become a victim and say, oh, the world owes me and nobody gave me anything.
Yep.
The other side was, okay, been there, done that. I learned something. Let's move on. Let's take the learning. So I pivoted. I started going back to my roots. I went back to my story. I recreated myself. And it has taken me 29 months to recreate that identity. I won't
Hmm.
hide it and say, yeah. But what I've gone through in 29 months, people can now do it in 9 days. So
Exactly.
okay, you'll have, just to put it in perspective, 19 is my number. It's 1 and 9.
Okay.
I have a bit of things with number.
Hmm.
My birth date, my anniversary, one of my sons, two of my sons have got 9 and 19 all around them. So, and my daughter's got one. I work. everything from 9 and that basis. 9 is the end. In numerology, 9 means end, 1 means beginning. So to me, I've got 19, my birth date is 19, my anniversary is 19. So I take it as a sign from divine to say, you're always ending and starting. That's your journey. When
Okay.
something ends is the beginning of something new. So this is the mindset I had when I finished in 2018 January, and I said I haven't got what I was aiming for. I said, good, this chapter's ended, but another chapter. Let's walk down that chapter. Let's experience.
Hmm.
And that's been the story of my life.
Interesting. But isn't it strange that sometimes when a story ends, we're just so stuck on that story that ended upon us that we don't really want to start the next chapter, or we're holding back to start it.
Yeah.
So, and before you
Attachment.
address that, let me just say a quick hello to all the people who have been watching and just have said hi to us. We've got Elsie who's watching all the way from US. Wilson, who has stayed awake in Singapore, is watching us. We've got Salva,
Thank you.
who's my school friend, and then we've got Charlotte,
Charlotte,
who, of
thank
course,
you.
yes, yes, she's watching us. So hi, everybody says hi, guys. I have with me Joy on board. He's talking about branding. He's talking about upscaling business, and beyond all of that, he's talking about owning your story. He's talking about the vulnerabilities of saying the truth, being the truth, and living your truth. So Joy, over back to you. We were talking about so many things.
Yeah.
Tell
I'm
us.
just going to bring it home now. So, one of the concepts is,
Yes.
you know, people shy away from talking about love at work, love in business.
Hmm.
So, with the moment we bring this up, what do you mean love in business? A lot of thoughts of diverse nature sort of go through everybody's heads. Love at work, somebody's having an extramarital affair. What's love got to
Yeah,
do
that's
at
a
work? It's professional, it's cut and dry. I mean, put it out. But here's the perspective now, what I started with. We are people, as human beings created by God. We feel first and then put logic to that feeling. And when I say accept your
hmm.
truth, find your story, you've got to catch hold of that feel. That's your heart. That's your inner GPS guiding you, so to speak. The heart does not speak in English, Urdu, Hindi, Swedish, or whatever. It speaks in a language which is called emotion. You've got to, saying women have sixth sense, intuition, whatever it is, but you've got to read or feel your heart. And that happens when you accept your truth. So, when you accept your truth and you bring that out in the workplace, in businesses, if we approach each other as human beings, two
Hmm.
people with respect and kindness, and saying, hey, you know what? I want to be loved from a person, a people perspective. So if I give you warmth, kindness, generosity out as part of that overall package of love, this it's going to be very hard for you not to smile, not because you're a smile strategist, but not to smile and return that back. I smile
Yeah.
in spite of whatever is inside, because I don't know your story. I don't know what you've come
Hmm.
through when you're meeting me. But if I smile and say, hey, Ruqya, how's your day been? And I actually listen
Mhm.
to how your day's been. That's the second part. Listen. You will
Yep.
find a connect happening. And this is the change in the business world that I mentioned earlier. I said humanity and humanness. This is literally it. And I'll share this from your backyard. I just read about this a couple of days ago. MR
Yep.
has just done away with designations,
Yep.
the entire group.
Job
All right.
titles.
I read it. I read the memo that had been published that the group chairman had sent out to everybody. And I have to say, it's an awesome example that's across, because at least as a leadership perspective, the message that has gone is, I value you as an individual. Forget about these titles. It doesn't matter
Yep.
what we are doing. And this is exactly what is coming out in business, and how it's really strange that I read it and I got got it sent to me is because the projects I work with my clients, I don't take marketing, sales, production, tech, customer service isolated. I bring the people together as one. And I ask them, how do you think the
Hmm.
customer should receive value? And they put it down on the board. They work as a team. They do the process. They do everything. And then suddenly you find a
Hmm.
customer service person writing the post, doing content writing. You find a techie
Right.
actually saying, we should knock this off on the website. And people, 8 people, 6 people work together. What happens in that team is a classic team bonding happens. People start to trust each other. The relationship strengthens,
Hmm.
and that team gets on fire. They deliver results. I walk away, but the team now knows what to
Hmm.
do. And projects that I've done 6 months to 8 months ago, I've got people WhatsApping me still. I'm not paid for it to say, we're doing this. What do you think? I could choose to say no answer or just give an answer. I choose to answer because at least, somebody's thinking of me. That's a
Yes.
prayer in kindness going out. That's it. That's love at work that I say works today, especially after the pandemic.
True that. Quick question. What about cookie cutter formats of marketing? Also of websites for that matter. You have this a particular way that a website should look like, or this is how an ad should be presented, or this is how you should tell your story or answer an interview. What are your thoughts on that?
Rules are made to be broken. Any rules,
Oh, yeah.
any rules. I said this a little earlier. Pre-pandemic,
Yeah.
there were rules and rules and more rules. Post-pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to throw out the playbook, the rule book. You play football on a cricket pitch and cricket on a baseball pitch. Who says you can't? You just got to go
Yeah.
and do it. It's changed. And I tell you why I'm so vociferous about this, Rukia, is simply because people and their behavior has changed drastically. You have a group of
True.
people who are hating work from home because they don't have space at home with kids and wife and everybody and both husband wife working. They don't have privacy to even take calls properly. I know people who are taking calls in India in their cars because the
Hmm.
kids, in-laws,
Yeah.
wives
Yeah.
working, there's no space. Okay, so even in Malaysia, in Singapore for that matter, in Hong Kong, that's one part of it. The behavior has changed. The second part is that people have become more cautious and people have become more understanding of what we used to call the small things of life. I value
Yep.
breathing, I value eating, I value getting drug free food for that matter. Oh, now I'm not going to spend $100 on eating out. I'm actually going to get groceries and I'm going to cook it so that, you know, but I'm going to do something different with the menu and the family eats together. So it's not a movie night
Yeah.
out, it's a movie on the Blu-ray disc or TV or whatever. But that togetherness, that's a very different
Together.
equation that has come in. So
True.
this is where that change has got to be made.
Also the realization that at home, because earlier everybody had their own space, their own things going on, so usually people at home did not know what was happening on the outside. Like the wife wouldn't know how much effort the husband puts in to bring the
Right.
bread to the table. And then the husband also sometimes didn't know that, how much work goes into raising the kids, getting the homework done, how much effort the children put into it. And also when you look at employee perspective, you're having meetings sitting at home. The boss suddenly comes to know what exactly goes on in your world,
Very true.
and vice versa. So much of blending and seamless blending is beginning to take place now.
This,
And
Rukia, this is where,
yeah,
so just I have to put in a word over here. This is where,
yes,
from a professional perspective and employed business work perspective, leadership becomes so critical. And leadership has
mm-hmm,
got two aspects to it. There's a group that's leading their team, all right,
mm-hmm,
and the team is looking up to that leader for guidance, right? At the same time, this team that's looking up for guidance, that team also has individuals who need to lead themselves. So and I go back to this storyline again. Being real, the individual team member has to have authenticity, or I'll say honesty, to know
hmm,
your story, to have the emotional maturity to say, this is my home, boss. This is what I can
Hmm.
do. You don't turn off your video because look, I work from home. I've been working from home way before pandemic, COVID, and everything, right? I've got
Yep.
a young one who really, this, I've got a young one who brings the house down if he's upset. When I'm
Yep.
on a call and it happens, I excuse myself. I say, give me a minute, and this is happening, and I've got it. And I don't shy away from the fact that I'm working from home and I've got a kid. It's part of your life. Be real. Take it. When you do that, the top leader, the team leader, the senior management, or whatever, also needs to have kindness and graciousness to understand, hey, he's a human being and he's working from home because of the situation we are in. And that's what I mean by humanity and humanness. That's leadership. That's the real honest person coming out to say, hey, Joy, I understand. Don't worry about it. Maybe just ping me when you're ready. We'll make 15 minutes and we'll catch up again. Boom, end of story.
Yep.
That's all. That leadership is very, very critical today.
Hmm. So, looking at leadership, looking at working from home, okay, this is the scenario now. How important are boundaries
Oh,
when you look at, yeah, okay, that O tells us a lot already,
no,
but
I,
good work.
I was just structuring. I was just structuring how to say this. Boundaries are very important. Look, I mean, look, we ourselves are responsible for our boundaries. Okay, if we don't set it, you can't expect others to set it for you. Others are going to keep coming in and in and in and in till one point you've lost yourself. So first,
Hmm.
whether you're at home, you're at work, or whatever, you need to set some very clear boundaries. And your boundaries
Hmm.
come from your value system and your beliefs. How far do you take and how far you don't take? If you don't set
Hmm.
it, and to set it, you've got to really use communication. And
Hmm.
communication means spoken and body language together, really clearly, whichever language is understood, whether it's your boss, your junior, your spouse, your partner, your children, very clear. Let me give you an example. I've got kids at home, two kids, right? Young ones, homeschooling. My wife
Yes.
runs a baking business from home. God bless her soul, because there's been a point in time where she's been putting food on the table for us, the entire family, and I'm proud of that. Um, my family knows exactly. I have an open calendar which I share, so they know exactly at what time of the days I have my calls. My elder boy manages his brother when his mother's in another room when dad's having a call. When the mother is busy putting her ingredients or something together, I am taking care of the boys in a separate area. So you've got to put those boundaries so that each one has their own thing. Put it, set it. Yeah, initially people might say, wow, you're really tough, or you're
Hmm.
really strict, or very disciplined. But let me tell you, 7 days later, they'll love you for it. They'll come into patch.
True. So we have some comments coming in from
Yeah.
Rohit. Um, Human behavior changed drastically. Joy, one question. What changes are expected in terms of conducting business jobs through home? Because even Corona is not going anywhere.
Rohit, first of all, hi. Thanks for being on the show. Love it, brother, that you've asked this question. Look, what changes are we expecting? The main changes is, how are you seeing business? I started this at the beginning of the show, which is, people have changed. Whether you and I understand that we've changed or not, we have. Our behavior has changed. Look, every time I go out, Malaysia's opened up. We still have to wear masks and be out. But I'll tell you, I go to meet somebody, I have to keep a social distance. We sit across a 3 feet wide table, and then I go to a shop and I come back, I've got a shower. Now, earlier, I didn't have that. I could shower maybe 1 hour later after I got home. Now I've really got to shower straight away after I get back. It's called SOP, Standard Operating Procedure for Prevention. So, small part of a change behavior, but we people have changed, number one. Number two, with 90 plus days or 120 days in some places, staying inside an apartment and working, and only light and fresh air that you get is your car park and your apartment uh, perimeter and your balcony. People have got a lot stifled, and that really creates a lot of frustrations. A lot of frustrations, you start thinking anxiety and stress, and you get into that spiral. So that's another area that we've got to keep in mind. Last and not the least, I'm sure you're aware of rampant layoffs that are happening, and job seekers are coming on various forums, and families being affected, businesses closing down. So that's a third area that the economic impact is really starting to come in now. With 3 months of closure globally, we are probably going to take a year plus, if not, a couple of years to ramp back up to a pre-COVID stage. So these changes from a business perspective needs to be taken into account. What happens? Let's approach people, whether we are hiring somebody or we are marketing to somebody or we are talking to a business partner. Let's approach it with a little bit of empathy. I'll use that word, which means, hey,
Yes.
the business partner can't pay, or the business can't pay the partner. Be open, be truthful, be frank, and say, hey, uh, you know, give me a little bit of time. This is my scenario. I need the supplies so I can get it, but I can't pay you now. Give me another month. Well,
Hmm.
7 to 8 times out of 10, decent people will say, no worries, we are in this together. Let's help each other out, because no vendor would like a client to leave. Number one, where you're where you're talking to your employees and hiring talent, cash flow affects salary. Be open and say, hey guys, let's say I really need to get X amount to make salary payments next month. What's top of mind? Bring people together just like you do in your family. When you have an
Hmm.
issue, you have a problem in a family, it's not one head that solves. Yeah, it's always the head of the family, but sometimes the husband wife work together. Sometimes if they have adult kids, the kids get into it. It's a family conclave. A business
True.
is at the end of the day where you spend 80% of your time, whether you like it or not. Make it like that family. Bring that empathy, show some kindness, connect from your heart to say, hey, I don't know all the answers. And this is for senior leaders out there. If you can
Yeah.
just become human, get away from your designation, because your designation, your cars and your houses are not what make you. What makes you is your voice, your story, your value. Use that, come from your heart and connect. Boom.
Hmm.
That's how we will have to manage in the next 6 to about 8, 10 months before some form of stability comes in. Yeah, Rohit, I
Hmm.
also agree. Positive frame of mind. Absolutely. Bring people together so that you create that. Rukia brings Wise Wednesdays to create a circle of genius. My
Yep.
recommendation to business is bring your people together to create a family slash a community where each one is there for the other, where it's not going to work at 8 o'clock in the morning that matters. It's working 24/7. Even when you're not there physically, you are
True.
thinking of each other's well being, just like we do for our family. Boom, that's it.
True. Wilson says, I enjoy how you weave humanity into leadership. And Rohit has another question around that. How leaders will
Yeah.
be preparing themselves for the new normal, as their role will really be critical to leading the teams. Humanity into leadership. Well said, Joy.
I'll come
So I
back
know
to
you covered a
Wilson.
bit of that. Yeah. Yes.
No, I'll come
Tell
back
me.
and I'll answer humanity in leadership
Okay.
for Wilson in a bit. But Rohit, the question you've asked, brilliant question, brother. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to give out the secrets on a public talk. Send the people my way. I'll be happy to tell them how leaders can prepare. Watch my space on LinkedIn. You'll find out something very soon coming out for leaders to tackle uh, post pandemic what leadership is. Back to Wilson and humanity. Look, I
Yes.
mean, I speak, as you know, Rukia, joy speaks about joy. And
Yep.
the joy is all about creating value in the individual and through the individual in the business, because there is business is for the people, with the people, and of the people. And US people are going to hate me for it because it's literally out of their US constitution. But if you take people away from business, there is no business. Historically, business
Hmm.
started because somebody needed something and somebody else had it. Second thing,
Hmm.
humanity has come in, whether we want it or not, whichever way, whether it's a man made virus or it's a natural virus, whichever it is the first time in human history the entire world has been sent in with their near and dear ones inside. We've had a lot of loss of life all over globally. But in this 3 to 4 month period, actually come to understand the value of what another person means to me, because what can happen to that other person can happen to me, and that's the humanness that has come out. And this is the part that leaders need to understand and bring forward, which is you're human, I'm human. I really can't define what being human is. It's all
Mm.
about having your heart on your sleeve, literally wearing it and being vulnerable and having the courage to say, you know what, I seriously have no clue how we are going to manage going forward. But you know what? I believe the five of us, if we sit down, we'll map a way out. If you can
True.
have that authenticity, I don't like using this word because it's so much of a buzzword, but
But
if you
it
have
is.
that, yeah, it's I mean, I'd use the word real. I'll use the word real. If you can bring that real you, that authentic, focused you will find your passion, your belief actually translating without words to the people you're interacting with. And that will create buy-in. They will your team will actually say, this makes sense. Together we are better, we are stronger, whatever. Let's try. Let's do it. Let's do it. And then you slip. And something I've learned from Ruqya, drop the try, go do it. Drop the try, go do it. So
Yeah.
when you bring that team together and say, okay, let's go do this. Hey, what's the worst that can happen? You're not going to make that 100 million bucks, but if you do it, you just might come up to 50 million. If you don't do it, you're not going to even have that. That's leadership going forward.
Super. Wilson replies saying, "Thank you for sharing. I love your realness."
Pleasure. Pleasure, Wilson. And thank you for staying up and giving me company from
Yes, he's
Singapore.
all the way in
Thank you.
Singapore. So I really, really thank you, Wilson. Thank you for watching in. So, okay. Now, my understanding is in a previous era, I think people always thought when they do business, what's in it for me?
Yeah,
And what I'm hearing from you is the conversation has now changed,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had 100 years plus of
Um,
business that human history knows of making money off another man's. One man's income is another man's profit. One man's expenditure is another man's income. Adam Smith. That's the school of thought business has operated in. It's gone. We've operated 100 years of making shareholders rich. Today, if you don't take care of your community, you're not going to be in business for very long. You have to give value to the
mm,
people, and value has three levels: an emotional value, a functional value, and a social value. Okay, these three levels in marketing we use. It creates what is called perception. If you don't ping on all three, sorry, but
mhm.
I mean, you could put out price, profit, and sales. The old fashioned sales pitch just isn't working anymore. I mean, every day I'm talking to people, and people are coming back and saying, and I'm talking to people in sales and senior sales and B2B sales, and say, what do we do? I said, just connect, talk to the person, ask him
Mm,
how is he. I mean, this Monday I had a ex client who I called. It was just one of those calls. I said, hey, I'm just calling. How are you? So, Joy, I don't have anything. I said, hey, hang on. I asked you, how are you? I'm not calling for business. I just wanted to have a 10-minute
exactly.
chat. If you have the 10 minutes, otherwise, I'll call back when you have time. He said, yeah, I'm good. I'm struggling. So I said, is there something I could help you with? And, the conversation just went. I didn't get business. I didn't get business, but I allowed him to speak for 10 minutes on what he thought was his issue. I just listened and I gave back. Morning, he sends me a mail saying, buddy, thank you for listening to me. You gave me a brainwave that night. So you see, the solutions are within. We've got to understand, are we defining the problem correctly? And this is the change in business that I'm talking about. If you're going to look after money, 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 money is a byproduct. It's going to come. You're
Yep.
not going to be successful. You're not going to get it. Give value, be kind, be human, and you will find one customer referring you to three more. That's a classic textbook. It's happened. I've done it for my clients. Anybody out there wants to try, ping me up. I'm available on LinkedIn. Sorry for the self plug.
So let's browse through the comments.
Yeah, sure. Wilson
Always
said a
love
very
your
nice point.
intelligence, energy, sense of humor, brother. Spot on, impactful. Yes.
Sorry, Ruqya. Wilson gave a very nice
You were
comment. They said
saying?
many leaders are afraid of appearing vulnerable or wrong or not having an answer. Absolutely, Wilson. I couldn't agree. And the more and
Hmm.
more of that, and this actually comes from not knowing oneself or not facing oneself. If you have to be comfortable in your own skin with who you are, and Rukia mentioned this, vulnerability actually takes courage. Vulnerability is not just simply sitting down and crying and saying boo hoo
Yeah.
hoo, I don't know what to do. It takes a lot of courage to say I don't know the answer, but I know together we're going to have the answer. You've got to be human, right? You are not superior, you are not
Yes.
inferior, you're all equal. But every one of
Hmm.
us have a uniqueness which, when we bring it together, magic happens. That's where leadership is heading today.
True. So I was going to ask you. So this basically also connects back to owning your story, right? Where you're talking about vulnerability and
Yeah,
just being the real you.
yeah, yeah.
Super. So Charlotte says it's not all about money. Rohit liked the quote. Adam Smith. And yes, amazing. Thank you guys for tuning in. And how can a person find joy within the work they do? I just had to ask you that question.
Ah, very good question. Very good question. So I'm taking a couple of seconds here to decide how to frame. First of all, you can't find me in every work that you do because there's only one Joy. There are many people globally out of 7.6 billion whose names are Joy, but this Joy is unique.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
a flippant. Um, you've got to really look in to see what you do. Okay, let me rephrase this. Answer the question, what's really important to you today? As in at this point in time, in the present, not in the past, not in the future, but in the present, what's really important to you? When you've answered that,
Hmm.
you come down to a level to see what are you doing. And if you take your work, your professional 9 to 5 kind of area, look at that work you're doing and see where is it in comparison to what's important to you today. So you'll have 3 levels of answer. Hey, I'm bang
Hmm.
on. What's important to me is what I'm doing. This is important to me, but I'm seeming to be doing this sometimes. That's category C. And last, category B is, yeah, this is so important to me, but I'm doing something totally opposite. This is north, this is south. A, B, C. These are the 3 levels. Once you know that, you'll know exactly what you have to do. Then logic kicks in. If you can kick it up, give up, not bother about your paycheck, and actually follow that passion and work really hard. And it's not going to be done in 3 months. I can tell you that. I've got 2 startups and it's 2.5 years, and I'm still trying to break into the proper cash flow. Monetize your passion. So you find joy in work when what is
Hmm.
really important to you, which in other words is often called passion, and you are able to monetize that passion. Example, I have a love
Hmm.
affair with marketing since the day I passed out of my business school, which is now nigh on to 35 years. Okay. I have a love affair. Literally, I love what I do. And why do I love it? Is because this human element into business very closely. Earlier, I used to do customer psychographics. I used to do psychology, neurology, and all of that in terms of marketing, advertising, communication. You needed to know. I loved it. Today, I'm connecting people. I'm trying to understand people,
Hmm.
understand my business, understand my client, and give the client how to do it. I love it. That's my passion. So, as a result of which, I started a startup, which is now 10 months old and in marketing. And I'm trying to monetize it more and more to make it into a scalable startup business. So that's what I mean by finding
Hmm.
joy at work. And I said this, I've learned more in the last 2.5 to 3 years than I have learned in my 30 years of corporate life. So you see, you could turn and tell me, Joy, you didn't have joy in your last 30 years. My answer today would be no, I didn't. I worked for a paycheck. Unfortunately, I
Hmm.
didn't have Rukia to tell me 20 years ago. I only found her a few couple of years back. And now with that learning, would I go back to a job? Oh, by golly, I would. Nothing beats the security of a paycheck. The issue is going to be, what's the role? So, do you find joy? You will find what you want to find. You put it here. I love my
Exactly.
work. Every morning,
Yep.
wake up, after your prayers or whatever, you're setting out or you're putting on your laptop, do this affirmation. I love myself. I'm great. I'm awesome. I love my work. Say this 10,000 times in the day. I will guarantee you, if you started on a Monday, by the time you're Friday at 9 p.m. in the night, you are having a love affair with yourself. It's how our brain works. Neural pathway. Look it up. Tell yourself over and over, and you'll. That's how people brainwash people. That's it. That's it. Affirmations. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to be very mindful of time. We're coming to the end of the hour. So
Yeah.
one question, and unless of course somebody else asks a question, what's the difference between something being priceless and being free?
Sorry, Rukia, I lost you there. I lost the question there.
Um, there was a bit of a, yeah, there was a slang. So what is the difference between
Mhm.
something being priceless and being free?
Being priceless and being free. Did I get the question right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're coming from the perspective of
Yes.
putting a
Yes.
number. You're coming from the perspective of putting a number, which we call price.
Yeah, because you said monetize.
Yeah.
Yes, because
Okay.
you said
I,
monetize it, right? And a lot of us struggle. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. I struggle. I do a
yeah.
lot of this work for free.
Yeah.
But is it
Yeah.
free or is it priceless? I need to decide.
Okay.
So,
The work that you do is priceless. The issue is, does your recipient, the client who's receiving that, does he or she see it from that perspective? Because you see, our conditioning, like I said, our conditioning is the moment you use that word price, dollar signs start tinkling in the back of our head. You've got to flip that. You've got to flip it when you talk value. So you flip it to say,
uh-huh,
can you give me 2 liters of your blood? That's my coaching fee. What happens if you start asking for 2 liters of blood for every hour of coaching that you do? Imagine the change in people's mind. Wow, Rukia is sucking me dry. I mean, she's bleeding me dry, literally, right? See, the parameter needs to be changed. People
yes,
value you. You're creating that value, right? I said emotional, functional, and social. So go out and show people the
yes,
emotional value that you're creating, because what you do specifically, Rukia, you are actually creating emotional mental strength. You're strengthening somebody's mind about themselves, walking them through your smile strategy steps, leading them with a
yes.
brilliant, which you cannot pay and get in any store online or brick and mortar. You leave them with this $1 million smile 24/7 at the end of your
Mhm.
program, right? It's priceless.
True.
It's priceless. So it's a perspective that you come from. I pitch when I talk to my clients, and my clients say, Joy, how much are you going to cost? I said, what's your budget?
Hmm.
And they give me a budget. And I said, okay, what are you going to pay me? And they say, don't you have a fee? I said, no. You tell me the value you're getting. So I get projects, 4 digits, 3 digits, 2 digits. That's
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
You always flip the perspective, because that's how individually as a brand you create a difference. Change. It gets you to engage. On the other hand, it makes somebody else say, hey, there's a point in this, let me go down this road and see. And the guy doesn't take that. Don't waste your time, move on to the next person. There are, after all, 7
Hmm.
billion people in the world. That's all.
Absolutely. And so, from the 7 billion people, how do we connect to this individual Joy? Could I think you can type in comments, or you could put in at the end of after the session is
I
over. Charlotte says, "Smile strategy is priceless." Thank you so much. And as is Joy, Joy is absolutely. I actually say that this person here is Joy personified. Uh, the way you are, I mean, you come with a wealth of wisdom, experience, and yet you are so humble. I think that's the beauty of who you are. You don't like come across as unapproachable, and you're so grounded and balanced. Alhamdulillah. So
Alhamdulillah.
thank you, Joy, for being here. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank
And
you.
yes, is there anything that you'd like to add as a closing comment?
No, all, but I mean, just be yourself, be human.
Hmm.
Those who still have time on their hands, in the sense that it's not midnight or something, at you're at 10 p.m. at your end. uh, take 10-15 minutes, ponder about this with a cup of tea, coffee, whatever your thing is. Just be yourself, and I will give you this guarantee. I've done this for 29 months and I'm loving every day of it, even through what people call hardships or otherwise. When you are you, you find a glow that occurs internally. You feel happy. I don't want to use the word joy, it'll look bad, but you actually feel happy. You find yourself smiling. I can actually bring myself to smile automatically. Just be yourself. That's my thing. Anybody who wants to connect, please reach out to Ruqya. She has all my details, or jump onto LinkedIn and tap me. You'll find me. I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter,
And the
Instagram.
hashtag is Joy Speaks. Yes.
Hashtag Joy Speaks. That's right. I'd love some follows on Joy Speaks. Anybody can give me that? Most welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank
Charlotte,
you
thank
very,
you.
very much. And thank you for everybody who's joined in. And for those of you who joined in on replay, I will be sharing the links for how you can connect with Joy. This is someone who is a wealth of a fountain of wisdom and experience. As I said, he runs amazing strategy content as well as programs. Definitely connect with him. And until next time, thank you very much once again, and good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you so much.